Hi, I'm Yana, a fantasy artist and illustrator. For those of you who don't know, which is probably most of you, I usually listen to audiobooks while I'm working, and that way I read a lot of books in a year. Like, a lot! A few years back, I discovered self-help books as a genre for myself, in part because the library had a lot of those available, and I was freshly out of all the fun fantasy novels. But I'm also a bit of a scheduling and productivity nerd with a history of wonky mental health, so I guess it was fated. And who doesn't want to get their shit together? What I want to say is, I read a lot of self help books in a very short amount of time. I actually have go to books now to listen to depending on whether I need to have my butt kicked or whether I need to slow down. Actually, I like listening to a mix of both. Like, yes, once in a while you get a Gary V, but then you give yourself rest right after. I'm getting off topic. What I want to say is that most self-help books do a lot of repeating the same stuff over and over again, quoting the same studies, even using the same examples and metaphors. It's all a lot of slush, unless you purposefully pick contradictory ones, I guess. In a way, that's nice because I personally tend to forget what's in a book as soon as it's finished, so the repetition is great for information retention. But it also means, well, I guess the self help industry should be really scared of AI, I guess. Losing track of my goals here again. I swear I'll get to the point. What I actually want to say is that having read like 100 self-help books, the concept that has actually helped me the most is that of self-compassion. Researcher Dr. Kristen Neff, who coined the term, describes it like this. Instead of mercilessly judging and criticizing yourself for various inadequacies or shortcomings, self-compassion means you are kind and understanding when confronted with your failings. After all, who ever said you were supposed to be perfect? Now, with the three pillars of self-compassion being mindfulness, common humanity, and kindness, actually, she describes it in much more detail, but I'm not going to quote her entire website. You'll have to check that out yourself. Personally, I used to be big on self-acceptance, but I like compassion better. It feels kinder. I like it better than self-love as well, because that one always seems like such a big ask. It's also quite nebulous. How do we define love, anyways? Do I need to love everything about myself? Surely not. Self-compassion doesn't ask all that much of you. It just asks you to treat yourself with, well, compassion. The thing you're already having for other people. I mean, hopefully you do. You do have compassion for other people, right? Right? It's pretty closely related to the whole talk to yourself like you are your own best friend thing, which is a genuinely amazing and life-changing practice. It has helped me a lot. Anyways, maybe it's not for you, but it is for me. What self-compassion does is allowing yourself to see your flaws and your fuck-ups with kindness and love. It says, well, you messed that one up, but that's okay. And you didn't know any better. You tried your best. You'll do it better next time. And even if you don't, you'll still be trying, and that's the important bit. It says, well, this didn't go as planned, but it's alright. Nobody got hurt, hopefully. How do we continue from here on? Take the time you need to sulk and be disappointed, then come back and figure it out, because I know you can. What I like about it is that it's not letting you off the hook. It doesn't say, you're actually perfect and they just don't understand. It says you're a flawed human being just as everybody else, and that's not just alright, it's beautiful. Changing and growing and striving are all beautiful. Being perfect is not. With self-compassion, you're creating an environment of kindness that allows you to be honest and vulnerable to yourself. I know that sounds weird, but that's what it feels like. And being honest with yourself can be kind of scary, like truly honest. And with that foundation of self-kindness in place, with that ability to fail, knowing you have your own back, everything becomes easier. Self-compassion practice allows you to look at yourself as a complex, flawed human being, as somebody real. Especially if we have perfectionist tendencies, there can be a fictional version of ourselves in our head that is who we think we're supposed to be. And because that person is at best aspirational and at worst somebody else's idea of what you should aspire to, we will always fall short of it. I think our self-image can be an armor as well as a mask, as well as the knife stabbing us in the back. And with self-compassion, we strip all that shit away until only the puny little human is left. And then we give that puny little human a nice cozy blanket and a mug of tea and tell them to go to sleep, because while not solving any problems itself, usually anyways, it does make it easier to solve them. Originally, I meant to make a video about editing videos of yourself as part of a self-compassion practice, because you're very much confronted with your puny little human self there, literally as a little human in a box on your screen. I think editing video of yourself is a strange process because you have your perfectionism and your self-compassion just facing off. You'll notice all the things you don't like about yourself, and even mannerisms you didn't realize you had, like how I like to repeat half sentences when I don't have a script. I'm not doing it here because I have a script, but you might notice it with some other videos. I've always kind of hated my voice, and I think it's normal to be at least somewhat put off when hearing a recording of yourself, because it sounds so different from what you sound like to yourself. But I felt really insecure about it. I'm also very self-conscious about my accent, which is obviously not that of a native English speaker, because I'm not. But having edited a few videos now, I'm realizing that's just what I sound like. It's okay. Maybe that's more exposure therapy than self-compassion, but never mind. What is self-compassion though is hearing myself babble on about things without a script and using nonsensical phrases or saying something in the most inelegant way and then having a good laugh about it and then keeping it in. It's really interesting to notice what I edit out and what I keep in the video. A lot of silly bits stay. Perfectionism says, it's embarrassing, take it out. Self-compassion says, no, actually, look at you, you puny little human being, you adorable and puny little human. Let's keep that. Anyways, I'm a little sad I didn't start making these videos earlier. Not because I'm particularly good at them or because they have brought me great success or whatever, but because it's a weirdly healthy confrontation with myself. As I don't have time right now to do a great deal of editing and filming, I decided to just film me sketching something from imagination. I do a lot of marketing stuff right now and don't get to draw that much. So I was really looking forward to it. I'm a bit of an insecure sketcher. I pretty much always use reference when the final artwork is meant to look nice. It's a little bit funny because I used to be one of those, it's cheating unless you can draw it from memory people. Forgive me, I was 16. But doodling from memory is a little nerve-wracking for me now, especially if I don't make a composition sketch up front. There are just no guarantees the end result will look good. As I decided to doodle for this video, I realized how much of that process was about self-compassion as well. I sketch with big pens a lot, which means I can't erase anything. I can only draw on top of what I've sketched before. This is also strangely freeing, as it keeps me from trying to get things perfect. You always have to move on with a drawing. You have to make decisions and stick to them, or abandon them, but you can't undo them. You take risks, not big ones, mind you, but there are risks. And when you make an artistic choice, when you tried something and it doesn't quite look as good as you meant for it to, you'll have to live with it. You say, this is not ideal, but it's what we have now. How do we move on? Start a new drawing? Continue? How can we make that work anyways? I don't know. I guess you can also have a fit about how your drawing sucks, but the nice thing about sketchbook doodles is that they're perfectly allowed to suck. That's what the sketch is there for. Of course I want a nice drawing by the end, but that's not what this is about. This is about getting to draw and create something. The process of it. I think we need more self-compassion with our art as well. I think I need to draw more from memory and have all those moments where I look at a wonky anatomy, have a laugh, and then show it to people going, look at my puny little drawing, look at this imperfect mess that I made, isn't it adorable? I'll keep it. I think of the egg horse and long cat, beloved patron saints of the arts. Why do we love them so much? Why do they delight us so much? And why do we get down on ourselves if our own drawings aren't all we want them to be? I think being able to marvel and delight in our own imperfections in ourselves and in our art is a comfortable place to create from. We can still want to grow and want our art to be better. We can still fix mistakes before sending the final artwork to our client. Actually, we should do that. But we can also enjoy the mistake. Life is weird AF. We make decisions all the time that we can't undo, or at least not easily. Instead, we have to move on and figure things out. And not all mistakes are delightful, and you don't have to laugh about everything. At some point, that's probably an unhealthy coping mechanism, though one of the better ones, I think. In any case, we can always look at ourselves, our puny humanness on a big planet in a giant universe, and say, well, that didn't go as planned, but you did what you could. Have a good cry, drink some water and binge some TV and sleep for 12 hours, and then we'll figure it out. What I want to say is, it's a mess out there, so be kind to others, to yourself. Thank you for listening and watching, I guess. Bye. Bye.